figured we'd do this video while we drive. I don't know if it's going. I doubt this would be a long video, and I probably won't go into too much detail with this video. But I see that a lot of people are dealing with these. We'll clean these windows down, just a little something. A lot of people are dealing with this whole, this whole election with these political candidates. Those who are trying to appeal to black people. You have the likes of Kamala Harris, who has tried to appeal to black people on the lowest frequency level, on the lowest intellectual level, and it's actually insulting when you really think about it. You do have a lot of black people who are talking about reparations for black people, right? Now, if you ask me, the way it's looking, I don't think it's gonna happen. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you see how every single candidate, and I'm talking about these Democrats, when black people ask them to at least reference a black agenda, they don't do this. They have an all-inclusive agenda. An agenda that doesn't solely benefit black people, but an agenda that benefits American people. And you blacks will indirectly benefit from it. I mean, this is what Kamala Harris stated. Despite the fact that we know that all these other groups, whether it be the Jews, whether it be LGBT, whether it be the feminists, white women, we know that when they come to these people and campaign to them, they reference exclusive agendas that solely benefit them. This is what lets you know that these people are being intellectually honest. Dishonest, I mean. Now, also, we understand that when it comes down to coming up with a black agenda, that this is something that blacks themselves should be presenting to the politician and not the other way around. But anyhow, that's for a later subject. But we know exactly where these people, and the way they pretty much treat black people, we know is a joke. So when we sit back and we listen to the likes of a Kamala Harris, we look at a Bernie Sanders, when you talk about reparations for black people, they'll tell you, no, I don't support that. I'm not going to support an agenda that's only for black people. Then these are the same groups of people who will sit back and reference the fact that they know that there is a wealth disparity gap from blacks compared to whites. I think they said the number is around 30% somewhere. We need to fix that gap and somehow close the gap. Well, you know, there's only one way you can really do that. So when you hear these politicians stating that they are aware of this wealth, this gap between blacks and whites, you know that these politicians are completely full of fucking shit. Because here's what they're saying once again. They want to come up with agendas that benefit all Americans or benefit impoverished communities. And this is their talking points. This is how they try to get around addressing black people. Because now when you look at it and say, okay, well, that doesn't benefit black people, they can turn around and say, well, I never said it was solely for black people. It's for people of color. What does people of color mean? Not black. Everything else, including black. So we understand the way this game is played. So when you hear these politicians talking about this disparity gap of wealth between black people and white people, and why that is, and how come blacks can't own homes or amount to the same amount of wealth, and yet when they talk about actually doing something, they talk about black people indirectly benefiting from something that is going to put other people on higher levels. Now the thing is, you already got, this is how you know this is bullshit, because in order to close a wealth gap between two groups of people, especially if one already has the upper hand, you don't give the one who has the upper hand more benefits. So essentially what they're saying is that, okay, let's just come up with a generic number for a second. Let's say that blacks are at 30% of wealth and whites are at 60%. So even if you bring blacks, or if the residual effect benefits blacks and brings blacks up to 60%, now what, whites are at what, 90%? So either way, the same gap is still there. You didn't close the gap. So this is how you know when you deal with these people and they start talking this nonsense about, well, we got a huge gap that we have to close. We know it's total bullshit. Also, in addition, when we talk about reparations, and well, this is actually, I can tie something back in because I said I wasn't going to go into it, but I'll go ahead and I'll reference this now. Because in many cases we have, when blacks are talking about a black agenda, the first thing I'll say is that black people need to present a black agenda to any political candidate. The fact that these political candidates you're asking them for an agenda, that means they can spin it any way they want to, and they can manipulate it any way they want to, which would mean what? That it doesn't benefit you. Or if it benefits you, you are the one who are least likely to benefit from it or get the least amount of benefits from it. We know this is just how this works. So when we deal with having an agenda, and this is what I wanted to reference about these political candidates. No, not political candidates, but these black Republicans. And there's a reason why many people don't like them, or don't like many of them, myself included. Now, I do have a lot of conservative views. However, I'm not a conservative. I don't align myself with any party because I know that none of these parties have ever benefited my cause. Never. So I don't align myself with any party. Key thing is knowing how you're going to get these parties to acquiesce to what it is that you're looking for. Just like other groups of people have done this. Have managed to get political candidates to acquiesce to what they want. The gays managed to do it with Barack Obama. If you look at any of these political candidates, I believe Kamala Harris included, she will not come to these groups and not have an exclusive agenda just for them. I mean, this is also another reason why gays and the LGBT are able to start pushing off these laws and legislations that many of them are writing. And here's the deal. A lot of y'all that say that y'all are against this, don't say anything about it. You just want to keep your mouth shut, and this is how this shit goes on. So, I mean, but that's another subject, so I'm not going to even waste my time getting into that one. However, when it comes down to black Republicans, like for instance, you got Candace Owens. And this is the comical thing between her and Kamala Harris. I mean, how the hell do you sit up here and try to get black people on board with your movement? Like you got Kamala Harris, who was so confident and cocky that she was going to get the black vote, right? And we know she's going to lose by a landslide. That's just a fact. She doesn't stand a chance in hell. As a matter of fact, I would go as far as to say that Donald Trump's chances of winning this next election in 2020 are looking real good. They're looking very good for him, unless he gets caught up in some other illegal shit. I don't know about that, but so far, his chances are looking real good. So, I should have gotten this lane a little bit sooner. Anyhow, you have Kamala Harris, who decided she was going to make her announcement and running for office, and done this on the birthday of Martin Luther King. And I sat back and I'm like, okay. And I first seen this on Facebook, and this is what, on the Governor Cuomo News or something like that. Somebody else said that really questionable to me as far as I'm concerned. But then again, this video is not about him, so I'm not even going to go into that. But decides to make her candidacy launch on Martin Luther King's birthday. That's the first thing that was a red flag to me. Strike two was the fact that she announced herself as a black woman. The first black woman who has a strong chance in winning the election. And I'm thinking to myself, hold on a second. You see, this also speaks volumes to another problem that takes place. And that is the fact that blacks have allowed other groups of people to get very comfortable claiming blackness, despite the fact that Kamala Harris is just a quarter black. She has an Indian mother. She has a biracial father who's half white. I mean, how black is she? And thirdly, thought she can appeal to black people on the lowest intellectual level. And this is typically what these political candidates have done. Now listen, I'm no student of politics. I might not be the best, or I'm not the best qualified to speak on it. But the one thing that I do take the time to notice is analyze how groups of people treat people. And when you notice behavior, and just like with Barack Obama, you notice the behavior, you notice the break of consistency. There's a broken pattern here. Because when black people asked him, okay, what are you going to do for black people? He turned around and quickly said, hey, listen, I'm not just the president for black people. And that's a damn insult in itself. But the fact that this guy said this, but yet he did not say it, like, okay, let me go ahead and make my point. Because when you notice when somebody's being consistent, let's just say you're an asshole. Okay, what makes me an asshole? The fact that you said you're not just the president for black people. Okay. Well, at least if anything, I'm a consistent asshole. Okay, so what makes you a consistent asshole? Listen, I'll tell you what makes me a consistent asshole. Is when you ask me, what are you going to do for black people? I'm going to tell you, I'm not just the president for black people. If the Jews come to me and ask me, hey, what am I going to do for Jewish people? I'm not just the president for Jewish people. If the gays come to me and say, hey, what are you going to do for gay people? Listen, I'm not just the president for gay people. So that's the definition of being a consistent asshole. There is a consistent track record, a consistent pattern. We don't got to like you. We don't got to agree with your policies, but at least you're fair and you're a consistent asshole. Okay, we understand that. Now, when you notice there's a breakdown in pattern, and only few people called this out when the shit actually happened, is when you ask him, okay, what are you going to do for black people? And he turns around and says, listen, I'm not just the president for black people. But then again, when it comes down to gays and everybody else, oh yeah, they got agendas on the table for them, exclusively. This is when you know you're dealing with somebody who's completely dishonest. So the fact that he would say this to black people, but yet he would not dare say this to any other group of people that came to him saying, hey, what you going to do for us? That right there should have woke black people up. And it seemed like, I'm not going to say that it should have, it seemed like it did. Because there's been a lot of black men and women getting a piece of this Kamala Harris. Many people who have been significantly breaking this fraudulent female down, breaking her down to a T. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the minute I seen her launch that nonsense on Martin Luther King's birthday, trying to declare she was a black woman, and I seen that shit on Facebook, I actually responded to that post. I forgot what it was, but right then and there I said, no, there's no way in hell you're going to get my vote. And then if that's not enough, this female attempted to appeal to black people by dancing a jig to Cardi B. And I'm thinking to myself, here you are trying to identify or align yourself with degenerate music. And that's all the Cardi B really is a fucking degenerate. I don't give a damn what anybody says. I don't listen to that buffoon. I don't support her damn music. As far as I'm concerned, she's a blatant jackass. So she's irrelevant to me. Secondly, she's not black. So some of you black people will run around and say, oh no, she is a black. No, she's not. That's the next thing. Stop letting everybody come up and claim a rank in your damn race and heritage. Because this is what you'll end up having. Fraudulent individuals who want to come along and pretty much try to get your vote by saying they're identifying with you. And if that's not enough, she tries to identify with black people to the lowest form, affiliating herself, her Jamaican heritage with, yeah, I smoked weed. Like every fucking Jamaican smokes damn weed. This is what she's done. Sitting there, buck dancing to Cardi B music, pouring hot sauce on collard greens. This is what this, I mean, come on, man. This is, boy. And we'll let you know there's been a momentum here, a momentum of blatant disrespect where people have gotten comfortable. And it becomes difficult to break a momentum now. But it seems like black people are finally starting to put some resistance against that damn momentum. But when you got a momentum, just like, look what's turning over here. A big ass fucking bus, right? Look at what I'm driving. This goddamn car. So when you have momentum, once you gain momentum, it becomes hard to slow something down when it has momentum. Let's say you got that big ass bus traveling at 50 miles an hour. It's going to take a longer time for that bus to stop versus if the bus was going 5 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour. You can stop it a lot easier. It takes a lot less force. But now, just like with this car, if I'm doing, right now I'm crawling at 8 miles an hour, boom, stop the car just like that. Drop of a dime. But now if I'm doing 35, 45, 60 miles an hour, guess what? It's going to take some time before I can actually bring this car to a safe stop. So what I'm saying is the fact that blacks have allowed these politicians to appeal to us in the lowest form, and we did not take the time to analyze their track record, and not only their track record, even if you were unable to analyze it, but just look at their consistency when it comes down to how they handle other groups of people. The fact that we did not take time to observe this and really call them out on their hypocrisy has built up this momentum for them to continue doing what they do. A perfect example, Kamala Harris. Because you would figure, after this female attempted her bullshit with dancing to Cardi B, saying she was black because she went to an all HSBCU, whatever the shit was called, wears Ugg boots. I mean, this is the shit she was doing. When that backfired on her, you figure she would have said, all right, you know what? We tried. Let me pump the brakes on that. Let me not try that again. Let me try to come to them with something authentic. And she did not. However, what she did Well, she doubled down on her bullshit. This is what she did. She doubled down on it. And that just lets you know the level of blatant disrespect. Because at that point in time, you would figure, all right, it's time to just chill the fuck out. Let me at least sit down and try to discuss politics. No. And not only did she double down, she continued to not only double down, but she tripled down. Pouring hot sauce on collard greens. I smoke weed. Just stupid shit. And her own damn father had to come out and condemn her stupid ass for the shit she was doing. And that right there speaks volumes to her candidacy. But since this momentum has been allowed to grow and gain even more and more momentum, it becomes that much more difficult to slow it down. So now when people are actually seeing this, they are so confident that they can just run the same gameplay on black people, and hey, they're going to just vote for me, because this is what black people have allowed to happen over the years. This is what we've allowed, and these are the consequences behind it. This is why you got to call people out on their hypocrisy right then and there. And if you don't know much about people, just look at their pattern. Now, as a matter of fact, I've said this years ago. I've broken this down in a video years ago. Look at somebody's pattern. And when you start to see the inconsistencies in that pattern, let me see if I can squeeze through this bus. Okay, I'm good. When you start to see the level of inconsistencies within that pattern, that can tell you a lot about that person without you having to ask that person a single question. And the thing is with me, it's a one and done deal for me. Once I see that you're a hypocrite or you're coming across being dishonest or disingenuous, guess what? There's nothing else that I need to see to say, all right, I'm done with your ass. I got nothing more to say for you. Nothing. I'm finished. So since we're actually looking at something like this take place, brings me to another point that I wanted to make. And I stated how I was going to make a video dealing with the black Republicans and their hypocrisy. One of them being Candace Owens, who was a Democrat turned Republican. Now listen, we understand the history behind the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is the one who fought to keep us enslaved. They were slave chains. The Republican Party is the ones who fought to free us. Now, I am under no stretch of the imagination that this was done because it was morally righteous to do. Just no way in hell. They just you can't tell me with everything that's going on now that this was done because it's just it's wrong to keep blacks enslaved. This is a business move. This is why this shit was done. So when I sit back and I hear people saying, you know, we're going to switch from the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party hasn't given us shit. And you know what? You're right. You're right. So we're going to go to the Republican Party. Now, at the end of the damn day, listen, it doesn't matter which party you go to. The result is still going to be the same. The question that you need to ask is, how are you going to get either one of these parties to acquiesce to what it is that you're looking for? Number one, this means you have to have a sound agenda. Meaning that you're not coming to them saying, hey, what's your agenda for us? No, you're presenting your agenda to them. Listen, this is what we got on the table. If you want our vote, what's in it for us? Are you going to back us on this? If not, kick rocks. And that's how you got to be. But if you go to either one of these parties empty-handed, expecting to come to a voting booth with just a vote and that's it, nothing's going to get done. The outcome's going to be the same. If you come there, yeah, they'll talk about reparations. They'll entertain it for you, but they're not going to actually live up to it. That's just how that's going to go down. So this is what a lot of black people have to start to realize, is that you're being duped. You're being bamboozled. You're being fooled. So it doesn't matter what party you vote for. I don't care what party you vote for. If you're going to vote for a party, have an agenda. Likewise, which brings me back to Candace Owens and a lot of black Republicans. A lot of the same black Republicans who voted for Donald Trump. And listen, once again, I don't care who you vote for. But if you're going to vote for somebody, at least have a reason for it. But here's what I noticed with a lot of you black Republicans is when you actually talk about policies and why you should vote Republican, you don't talk about anything that is going to benefit your black community. Typically, what a lot of these black Republicans do is when they get two nickels to rub together, they'll go ahead and they'll move into the suburbs, i.e. a white community. They'll be happy and talk and brag about, yeah, this is why I'm moving. I'm going to move amongst white people. This is what they think is a good idea. Now, listen, I'm not knocking nobody for where they live. Live where you want to live. But at the end of the day, you know, don't understand that when you move to their community, you are a guest in their house, in their space. You don't have your own. And this is my problem with black Republicans. Black Republicans typically do not have their own. They just want to sit here and enjoy the benefits of somebody else. Likewise, when you listen to a Candace Owens, what does Candace Owens talk about? Her bullshit ass Brexit movement. lead the Democratic Slave Party. Okay. And what are we going to do at the Republican Party? The thing is, if you ask them, they always say, yeah, I want to see the black community thrive. So what is your plan to make the black community thrive? Which becomes suspect. When you look at these black Republicans, I should have turned that way, but you know what, I'm going to go straight. I'm going to just keep on driving. When you ask these black Republicans, what is your agenda to make the black community thrive? And it's funny because, and this is what I meant to say about Kamala Harris, because this is the next thing that becomes comical, and the same thing with Candace Owens. How the hell do you sit up here and say that you're trying to lead black people, you're trying to garner black support, and you laid up with a white man? I mean, how the fuck does that make any goddamn? Because we know who's calling the shots here. But yet this is what you have black Republicans and black conservatives doing, and at the same time they wonder why they're not taken seriously. You don't have an agenda for your own. Your talking points are the same talking points of white Republicans. You fit their agenda. And the funny thing is, I sat back and I've watched video after video, and some of you black Republicans will say, yeah, I'm voting for Trump because I support the right to bear arms. Okay, all right. Okay. Because there was a study done on that. And I'm talking about states where you can legally walk around with a rifle out in the open, where you're legally allowed to do this. You support your right to bear arms. Listen, I support that right also. I ain't got no problem with that. I'm all about self-defense. But we've seen these studies take place time and time again. You as a black person can't walk around by yourself with a loaded firearm without a cop having his gun drawn to you. Now, we've seen the way they handle whites. They will talk with them calmly. They might ask them some questions. In certain cases, they don't even bother them. But let your black ass run around with a goddamn gun in your fucking hand, a loaded firearm, a semi-automatic assault rifle, and see if that cop don't have his gun drawn to you, despite the fact that they know you're allowed to walk around with this. The next thing that I find weird is I seen a black woman, I don't remember the name, but it was a video clip that I looked at maybe about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. And they were talking about why they voted for Donald Trump, wearing Make America Great Again hats on, but not speaking to any specific agenda that benefits their black community. And when you have this black woman talking, yeah, I support the right to bear arms. Okay, I will support you on that. I will agree with you on that. I will concede your point on that. But when you're the only black person surrounded by nothing but white people getting their approval, and you can't see what is fundamentally wrong with that picture, then I don't know what else to tell you. You see, a lot of you Negroes, you think that these people actually give a fuck about you. These people are using your black ass to push their agenda. So when you go ahead and you join the Republican Party, you don't have your own black agenda, which is what these people have. And the way that you know whether these people are really supporting you is if they support you having your own black agenda and they stand side by side with you and say, you know what, I support your right to have an agenda. Every single group of people who support a candidate should have an agenda that should be met, fair and square. However, I'm almost certain that is not going to be the case when it comes down to many of you Negroes. This is why y'all don't talk about it, because you know what the outcome will be. The minute they see you talking that black shit, oh no, you got to get the fuck up out of here. We can't have your black ass over here. You're here to support our agenda. And this is what it is when it comes down to you black Republicans. Like I said, you don't push for your own policies. You don't push for your own legislation that will benefit your community. This is why it doesn't matter how many of you actually become Republicans. The circumstances for blacks nationwide is still the same. Nothing changes. And many of you Negroes are under the impression that you're just going to tuck yourself in a white community and live comfortably. And hey, I'm good over here. I don't give a fuck what happens to them over there. You Negroes are just dysfunctional. I mean, you listen to all of these Negroes who have these talking points. These Negroes who have used the talking point, and myself included, and of course I have to come back and fall on my sword on this one, with the whole black on black crime bullshit. And I've already broken that shit down significantly for y'all. You won't hear any other group of people talking about this stupid shit, despite the fact that crime that happens amongst one specific race is higher within your own community. These are facts. But yet this is never talked about. It's just when somebody wants to shame black people or silence black people, what they say is, what about black on black crime? No. Those are talking points that I will never regurgitate ever again. And the reason why I've been able to pick this up is just sitting back and analyzing patterns. And when you start to analyze patterns, certain slogans, and when those slogans don't go along with anybody else except you, just like people will say, well, there's more than one way to blackness. No, there isn't. Listen, man, I don't understand where people come up with these narratives from. That, hey, you can be of a different descendant, and hey, I identify as black, and now that makes me black. No, there's only one way to being black, and that's by actually being black, by having two black parents. That's how that works. And the reason why I would say this is because if I can't go to an Asian community, a Hispanic community, saying, hey, I identify as Asian, I identify as Hispanic, they're not going to accept me as one of them, and rightfully so. But yet it's become comfortable for black people to accept these mixed breeds, these quarter blacks, these mulattoes, and be passed off as black people. This one drop rule, once again, that only exists amongst black people. That doesn't exist with no other race. So if somebody has a drop of white in them, does that make them white? What does that make Bob Marley? I mean, this is what you got to start to think about. But once again, when you sit back and you analyze the pattern, and you notice the level of hypocrisy and exploitation and what people do and how they systematically benefit off of the ignorance of black people, it is absolutely baffling. And one of the reasons why this is because black people have allowed this momentum to build up, and now it becomes that much more difficult to stop it once it's already full steam ahead. It's just like a train. A train going at 55 miles an hour takes more than half a mile to come to a complete stop. So if you're trying to stop that train within a short distance, guess what? You better slow it down while it's still traveling at slow speeds. Because once that damn thing starts to pick up momentum, forget about it. You ain't stopping it. And this is what I'm saying when it comes out to black people. And it just shows how dysfunctional black people are. It shows how, I mean, it's an ass-kissing mentality. It's just like back over the summer when I looked at a video of police officers setting up sting operations in black communities in Chicago, stating that they were setting up a bait truck to catch black people robbing Air Jordans, tennis shoes. This is what they were doing, trying to catch black people. And you had some of those brothers who stood up and said, get that fucking shit out of here. And the saddest part is when black men actually stood up to the plate and said, nah, we ain't with that. Get that shit out of our community. We're actually standing up and being fucking men for once and not just letting anything and everything take place in their damn community. Guess who was the same ones to go back and condemn them? Other black men. Other black men who run around stating, well, if you're not committing crimes, then you should have nothing to worry about. No. And I'm gonna remove that talking point away from y'all. Why? Because if that's the case, how come I don't see these bait trucks in anybody else's community? Oh, well, that's easy because according to a black scientist who conducted a study, you Negroes commit more than 60 to 80% of the crimes and the murders in this country. But yet we're only fucking 13% of the population. Explain to me how the fuck is that logically possible? It makes no goddamn sense. This is also another talking point that many of you black Republicans use, which is the same thing that also white Republicans use when they want to shame black people. The murder rate in Chicago, you Negroes are killing each other left and right. Okay, but yet they fail to realize that you have a large portion of Latin kings that are out there in Chicago. Funny thing is, when you listen to these reports, they're going to talk about X amount of shootings that take place over every single holiday in the summer of Chicago. And this has been going on for the past 5 or 6 years, at least from as far as I can remember. Probably even more. And if it's been going on longer, then that's even worse. Because you mean to tell me we're supposed to have one of the best police forces in the world, but yet every single day, some low-frequency dudes are able to commit crimes at the same time each year. And yet the common denominator of what these reports are going to state, no suspects in custody. Well, hold on a second. See, now I know this bullshit smoke being blown up my fucking ass. So you don't even have anybody in custody. You haven't captured one suspect. So if you don't have nobody in custody, if you don't have any goddamn suspects, then how do you know who's committing these damn crimes? How do you know that they're black? But the funny thing is everything that goes on is attributed to black. So I'm even sure, even if you have Hispanics who go ahead and commit crimes, what they do is they just lump it up to black people and say, see, we're going to just lump it up under y'all. Y'all commit over 80% of the murders, but you're only 13% of the population. Get the fuck out of here with that dumb shit. And then you have the black Republicans who are running around regurgitating those same talking points and don't see what's wrong with that problem. Once again, and the reason why I have a problem with this is because this demonizes my image as a black man. Yet you can't even walk around the fucking street in a city where you can legally carry a gun without a cop fucking stopping you and having his gun pointed at you. But yeah, if you're a white man, it ain't no problem. They're gonna have a nice conversation with you and send you off and have a nice day. So a lot of you Negroes who talk this bullshit, you don't address the real issues that take place in Black America. You don't address the issues that take place in your community, except what you do is you adapt white talking points. You're a spokespersonnel for them. However, there will never be a spokespersonnel for you unless there is something that they can benefit behind it. But yet you're the only one who does this, and you don't see what's wrong with this picture. You don't see what's wrong with you as a black person sitting up here regurgitating these talking points. But yet at the same time, here's the deal. What a lot of y'all fail to realize is there's a time limit on that. And I'm going to get back to that in a second. What was I going to say? God damn it, at the tip of my damn tongue. This is why I hate making videos when I'm driving. I can't fucking remember one fucking thing from the next. I got to pay attention to all this shit on the damn road. All right, so I'm going to get back to what I was just about to say. Is this a time limit? All right? There's a time limit. Just like Candace Owens has her time limit. And I noticed she caught a lot of heat when she made those statements about Adolf Hitler. You notice how when she had said this, I think she was somewhere overseas and said this bullshit about how he was a separatist, or whatever the hell he was. Okay? She caught a lot of heat from many different people. And what I've noticed is she was out left hung to dry, defending herself. So a lot of you Negroes think that because you get in a space of white people and you got them surrounding you, approving of your nonsense, that somehow you have developed a level of comfort. That I'm safe over here. You know, they ain't talking about me, I'm safe. And Candace Owens is gonna find herself where when they're done with you, when they've gotten all they can get out of you, or when they just tired of your black ass altogether, the same shit that they did with Omarosa, get your chocolate ass out of here. It's the same thing they're gonna do with Candace Owens. A lot of you Negroes are stupid. You're fucking idiots. Oh, this is what I was gonna reference also. It's because a lot of you Negroes, when y'all join these Republican parties, when you regurgitate these talking points of white Republicans, and people ask you, who do you identify with? What you state is that I'm an American. So you don't see yourself as black. I don't see color. Likewise with the Negro who made the video back over the summer with the bait trucks that were set up in Chicago. I don't see color. I look at myself as an American. And it's like, well, it's funny that you're the only one who thinks like this and says this shit, but yet the entire world, the first thing they see when they look at your black ass is a fucking nigger. And this is just how many of them see it. And this goes on with many other groups of people, Hispanics included, Indians most certainly. I mean, you just go ahead and just do some review videos on colorism when it comes down to Indian people. They look down upon your black ass. So yet at the same time, you're running around, I don't see myself as black, I see myself as an American first. But yet, these people not only see you as black, but they look down upon you, have a hatred towards you. And I'm not saying everybody, but there's people who will simply dislike you. Not based off of you doing anything to them, not because you harmed them or did anything, but just over your mere existence. And it becomes completely fucking pathetic when you listen to black people who were so goddamn weak-hearted, who were so soft, who were so whitewashed, that y'all regurgitate their fucking talking points. You can't develop an original thought process of your own. Everything is a matter of the same shit that they say, and somehow your black ass thinks that you're gonna get approval from these people. Notice how they're able to buy your ass out and have you speak up at their conventions. They ain't gonna do it for you. But anyhow, this is how black people typically are. So when a lot of you Negroes run around talking about you're a Republican, I don't care what party you join. I don't care what you align yourself with. None of that means anything to me. Because we both know that neither one of these parties have ever benefited us. We know this. This is a fact. The only thing that I'm going to say is that if you are going to join either of these parties, you need to have an agenda that benefits your collective group. The first thing I would want to know is, who do you align yourself with? If you're one of these Negroes who says, I don't see color and I don't see myself as black, I got nothing more to say to you. Discussion over with. But if you're going to be taken seriously and you're trying to get black people to join your Brexit movement like Candace Owens is, the first thing you need to have is an agenda for black people. Then if you go into the Republican Party and you stand in amongst a crowd of white people, then my question is, can you present that agenda to them without them taking offense to it? That's what I want to know. I mean, shit, you had a lot of white people who were insulted and felt angry by the movie The Black Panther. And my question is, why? Why? Because a lot of them were under the impression it was showing black excellence. Now, there were some underhanded messages that I seen in that movie, which they really don't got no reason to be upset once you thoroughly understand the way that movie went down. And it is typical of what happens with blacks in general. But that's another subject for a later discussion, so we ain't going to get into that one right over here. But the only thing I will say is, why? Why would you be upset about that? Because actually, when you think about that movie, it actually, for whites, just in optics alone, it benefits them. However, I'm veering off of the discussion, so I'm not going to get into that one. So like I said a little while ago, for those of you who are black Republicans and want to get black people to vote Republican, who are running around with Donald Trump hats on. I mean, the fact that you're running around wearing another man's fucking hat on your head, that right there just lets me know that you don't have an agenda for your own. That's what it lets me know. It lets me know that you're a follower. You're not a leader, you're a follower. Now, it's one thing for whites to run around wearing Donald Trump shirts and hats on, make America great again. That's one thing. Because at least if they're going to follow somebody of your own who at least talks your talking points and backs your ideologies. In which many of them will agree, even though he's pissing off a lot of people now, is that he backs their ideologies. He backs their talking points. So they don't got a problem with going ahead and putting on the Donald Trump hat and shirt talking about make America great again. But when I see your black ass doing it, I got to question you. When I see your black ass doing it, I ask, what is your agenda? What agenda do you have for yourself, let alone your community? Who do you identify with? Oh, I don't identify with the Negroes. I'm not one of them. Then, hey, there's nothing to talk about. That's just what it is. But that's typically what you're going to get when it comes down to black Republicans. And when many of y'all wonder why a lot of people don't fuck with black Republicans, myself included, these are the reasons why. Now, I've had some talking points over the years, and like I said, in quite a few videos, I've had to fall on my sword. Because as I've seen things differently, as I've analyzed, as I've done comparisons, I see that the same ways that I will sit here and condemn other black people, which I will call out black hypocrisy and nonsense and continue to do that. I'm not apologizing for that at all, ever. But I notice that you don't do that amongst other groups of people. And if you're not doing it amongst other groups of people, then why the hell would I go ahead and do it amongst my own group of people? Because at the end of the damn day, most people will identify with their race first. And that's just the way that works. The only ones who don't really do this are blacks. With that being said, we'll go run to one of these stores real quickly. And that's all I got to say in this video. And I'll catch you on the flip side.